What would happen if we chose to really tell the truth about ourselves? Like if we really just told the real truth of our lives. I'm not saying that it's true. I'm saying that it's my truth.
You're listening to Hammered.
Movies and television really play into the illusion of romantic love. There's this idea that once we have the right person, the right home, the right furniture, the right kitchen appliances, the right car, the right clothes, then we can live happily ever after. And I really had this idea in my mind that Ann was going to come back from Texas and live with me, and we would live happily ever after, and we would mend all the broken promises and all these burned bridges, just forgive and forget, and start clean and fresh. And I truly believe this. I really wanted this to be my goal. And I knew that what was going on at my job was not good, because it was just a recreation of the ice cream world, just a new type of business. And I started realizing that wherever I go, there I am to some degree. I was still blaming Allison for bringing in cocaine. But, I'm the one that got her a job. One night, my boss, Mohan, invited me over to his house for dinner. And I was real nervous about going because I didn't know his wife or his kids, and I was just going to be uncomfortable and it was going to be weird. But I went ahead and said yes because he's my boss. And I remember getting to their home, and they had this really beautiful brick, kind of 2-story, kind of new house, and it was in a nice neighborhood. And I got there, and they both came to the door, him and his wife, and opened the door together, and there were their 2 kids, 2 sons, and he introduced everyone, really very polite, like a lot of manners that I had grown up with. I knew about manners. I knew about introductions. I knew about greetings and salutations. We had a class in the 4th grade about that. I knew how to shake hands with people. I knew how to include people. And it was interesting because I had been in some homes and houses of girlfriends where, I'm pretending to be their friend, and I always felt overlooked, and I always felt not included because I was like this roommate. But they welcomed me into their home, Mohan and his wife and his kids, and we sat out on the deck, and it was already nighttime, and they had candles lit. It was really beautiful. The table was set so pretty, and there were some, like a teapot and just really pretty china, things I'd never seen before. And it was like an authentic Indian meal, which I'd never had Indian food in my life. And I got to hear Mohan's story. And he told me about how he ended up going to Oxford in England, and he was super smart. He had to work his way a lot harder than any work I had ever done. And I just listened to the story, and then they had arranged marriage, and that's just how it was for them. And they had a great relationship from what I could tell. And his wife was this beautiful woman, and when she looked at you, you could really feel her presence. She was very interested to know my story. And of course, I couldn't tell my story. Hell, I didn't even know my story. I just remember, touching on the good parts that I could talk about. And I could always selectively tell the truth to get me by and to get me through the dinner. But that night left an impression on me. That night touched something in my soul. And it gave me enough courage to go back and to let Allison know that we had to cut the shit out at work. That the only way we were going to get ahead is if we really focused and quit doing this bullshit. Yeah, we can drink after work, but not during work. And so I kind of put my nose to the grindstone and I started ignoring her. I think she was continually doing coke in the bathroom, but I just really tried to detach from her during the work hours. Of course, I was jonesing for a fucking beer by 5 o'clock. And a lot of times Mohan would come after work and say, hey, girls, you want to go have a beer? And we were like, yeah. And he would always buy us that draft beer down at Mile Aways. And then he would go on home. Well, we would stay there. So we started creating this whole bar environment of people that, we started connecting with, the barflies, the regulars. But of course, in your mind, you make it like, oh, it's like Cheers. It's like on TV. Everything is like a fucking illusion. Everything is like a make-believe. You make it be the way you want it to be in your mind. And so we would walk in larger than life with our personalities and, hey, everybody. And everybody's had enough drinks to go, hey, Jill, hey, Allison. And then Lisa would join in after her job. And there we would sit at the tables. And then we would end up at the bar. And we're buying shots for the whole bar. And fucking none of us had any money. Well, I was trying to save money, and so then I went on this whole stint of going home at night. So I'd go home to Daddy's apartment, and I would go across the street to Terry's house and drink Evan Williams with her. She always had a huge half-gallon under the sink. And so I would stay with her, and she was older. She was like 30. I remember her turning 30, but she would lecture me about how the only way I was going to be able to get out of my dad's is if I saved enough money to get an apartment, la, la, la. So I really started trying to save some money. I really decided, okay, if I want my girlfriend Ann to come back from Texas, I better get my shit together. So I saved enough money to get this apartment. And it was a brand new apartment called the Club Apartments. And it was near Gwinnett Place, which was this brand new area with a brand new mall and the brand new restaurants and the brand new everything. And they called my references, which Mohan vouched for me. I think he wanted me to get out of my dad's because I think he'd seen enough of my dad's behavior down at Mile Aways, the bar, to realize that Daddy was kind of on a downhill slide. So this apartment was $501 a month. I don't know what the fucking 01 was about, but that was the amount. And I had to come up with the first month and the security deposit and the last month. So I'm looking at, $1,503. And I did come up with that. I don't know how in the world I did it, but I did it. And this brand new apartment had a big swimming pool, the state-of-the-art everything. It had a weight room, a workout center. It had a hot tub outside. It was like a dream come true. And I was on the second floor, and I was so excited about this because I thought, okay, now Anne, when she comes back, we'll have this cool place to live, and it's young people. And I went to Roberts and I got brand new furniture. Now, I didn't really have a bad credit record because I never even had any credit. Back then, there wasn't, people weren't sending you credit card applications every 5 minutes. So I go in and I just found this one living room suit, and I was able to buy this on credit, and my payment was going to be $30 a month. So now I have this apartment with this brand new furniture, a brand new bed. Things are looking up. And I was really, really trying to be a professional young adult. Now I needed a car. So I went into a Bank South, and I told them about my motorcycle, and I had a title to this motorcycle. And I wanted to get a loan for a car, and I had found this little Toyota Corolla, 1975, for $2,500. And I still don't know how in the world, but they gave me the loan. They took the motorcycle title, I guess, as collateral. So now I have a little Toyota car. So I've got my car, I've got the apartment, and I've got new furniture. Wow, I'm on my way. Going to work, still going to work hungover. I mean, nothing's changed in that arena except I'm not going to the downtown bars. I'm only going to the bar near my house. And so now it's this new world of working every day, then going down to mile away, meeting up with all the barflies, having this like great camaraderie with the barfly people, and then going home most of the time in a near blackout and eating fast food and being sick the next day and then going back to work. And I had been gradually putting weight on because, when you don't exercise and you just stand all day and eat and drink bad food and bad beverage and lots of calories, then you're bound to gain a bunch of weight. And so I'd been putting some weight on, and I was becoming more unhealthy, and I couldn't really see myself. You see yourself like you used to see yourself. It's like there's scales over your eyes, and you only see the things that you want to see. And so I kept seeing myself as this like college athlete, that I was, had this great physique, and I looked good, and I was charming, and all these things that I believed about myself when I was under the influence. Without the influence, I knew that I was a overweight, fat piece of shit that had nothing to offer. And that's why I kept continually adding to the alcohol resume. So this just went on, and nothing got any better. My alcoholism was getting worse. I hid a bottle of vodka under the sink in the bathroom at my job. And when I would come in the mornings, I would have to get some vodka, and I would actually put a couple of Alka-Seltzers in it and just chug it and drink it. And that would kind of tone down the shakes a little bit until I could get something to eat, which we would go to Hardee's, which was in the parking lot of the shopping plaza, and usually get some gross, greasy breakfast food and eat that in order to tone down the shakes enough to try to get to lunch, and then have usually Golden Buddha garlic chicken, which would then hold you until time to go down to the bar to have the happy hour food and the alcohol. And then that would be your dinner, and then I would drink into the night. So this was becoming more of a pattern, and I didn't really think there was any other way. Well, Mohan, he really trusted us. He really trusted me with running that store. And I was trying to build this business because real estate was a big deal in Atlanta. And we had attracted a lot of real estate agents coming in and bringing their film. There was this one woman who would come in, and she was blonde, kind of curly hair, very pretty, probably in her 50s. And she had these really beautiful, twinkly blue eyes. And she was always so friendly and so nice. And her name was Diane D, last initial. She would put it on her little film pack, Diane D. And I liked her so much. And I just really, there was something in her. It's like she had a light inside of her glowing out. And she had this little necklace. It was a gold necklace, and it said, "One day at a time." And I remember looking at her necklace, and I said, "I like your necklace." And she said, "Oh," and she put her hand up onto the necklace. She said, "Thank you. A good friend of mine gave me that." Well, I had no clue that that meant anything. I didn't know that that was some kind of slogan. I just thought, oh, well, that's cute. That's cool. And then I remember being, drunk a couple of times when I talked to her, but she never treated me any differently. She was always very kind and very happy, positive person. And just something about her really got me. And there were a few people that came in that were just really great people. And I remember this one guy, he owned a German auto company, and God, he was like the best looking guy I think I'd ever seen in my life, one of them. And he came in one day and he said, "I've got my honeymoon on here, all these film rolls. I can't wait to see these." And we were like, honeymoon? He got married. And so we were so excited to see his photos, and we start printing the pictures. And as they come out, he's like, walking down the beach in Hawaii with his surfboard. And I mean, just unbelievably good looking man, just guy, Well, there's the new wife. And lo and behold, she looks exactly like Anne number one. I couldn't believe it. And we were so sick that I printed extra copies of his new wife and stuck them in our back room. We had like a little collage of all of our favorite people. And it was really kind of fucked up if you think about it. It's kind of stalkish, because he had no clue. We had his picture with the surfboard, and we had her picture. And, we were just so shallow that we were like, I guess we looked up to people because of their looks and because of their cars. I don't know. Maybe it's a thing with age, but I do know, looking back on it, it's pretty pathetic. But, we had this little thing going, and I don't know. It was kind of like, once again, my inner stirrings start rising up, and it's like those demons start coming back into play. Like, I'm getting bored. This is too mundane. Is this all there is? And I begin to drive back down to the bars. So I would leave mile aways, and I'm going home, I'd tell everybody, but I would go downtown. And now I find myself getting kicked out of the gay bars for being too drunk or too out of control. And I remember one night coming out, and there were a group of guys outside of the gay bar, and it was a women's bar. And they started talking to me. And I vaguely remember, I just remember they started pulling my arm and saying, "Hey, you want to go have a drink with us?" And just being real nice to me. And I was totally talking to them and just being funny and all this. Well, this couple of girls come out of the bar, and they noticed what was happening, and they came over. And they started saying, "Hey, man, leave her alone. Let's leave her alone." And I told them it was okay. And these girls were trying to help me. They were trying to pull me away. And I was like, "Oh, no, they're cool. They're cool." And all I remember is waking up the next day with the sun coming through my windshield in my car, and my seat was completely back, and I was passed out, and I was very sick, and I felt like I was cooking inside of that vehicle because of the sun. And I rolled the windows down very fast, and I was just, oh my God, what has happened? And my clothes were pretty messed up, and I got myself together, and I got home, and it was always like when you would get home, it was like home base, and then it'd be okay. And I made it to my apartment, and it was on a Saturday, and so I was gonna, take a shower and clean up my apartment and kind of get it together. There was always this like feeling of, okay, once I get home and I'm safe, then I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to do this anymore. Oh my God. And I knew something bad had happened, but I wasn't quite sure what had happened. And I started having some flashes through my mind. And I went out into my car, and I was just going to, straighten up my car. I was trying to clean. See, if you clean everything, then that sort of cleans your internal feeling. Like once I can clean everything and get everything back into order, then I'll get some sort of order inside of myself, maybe. And I went into my car, and in the back seat there was a comb. And it wasn't my comb. And I remember taking that comb and throwing it in the trash. And I just had nightmarish feelings about what had happened. And so with that, I continued to drink more and more and more. I didn't want to think about it. I felt like I was in some nightmare that I could not wake up from. Each day brought something else. And I would spend money that I didn't have. And so then I started going into my dad's apartment when he wasn't home. And he had this coin collection that he had had since I was a kid. And I knew where he hid it. And I knew where he had a whole red bandana full of silver $50, Eisenhower $50, Kennedy $50. They were all silver. And I remember climbing up in his closet and taking that red bandana. And I took that and I went to the liquor store with it. And I remember the man looking at me in disgust as I purchased my wild turkey. And I remember how guilty and how horrible I felt. And I remember taking out these coins and just buying alcohol. And my poor daddy, I just kept thinking, God, why and how do I do this? What is inside of me that makes me do this? And I could not stop it. I could not stop it. And I'm sure that people out in the world will always say, yes, you could have. Oh my God. Where's your willpower? Step into those shoes. Until you have walked those shoes, you will never ever know what that is. And I heard a saying one time, and it said, freedom has a flavor that the protected will never know. And I really resonate with that, because being powerless and doing those things that I did and that I continue doing, knowing right from wrong, what the fuck is right and what the fuck is wrong. When you hate yourself and you want to die, nothing matters anymore. And so all of those morals and ethics and religious scriptures, all that just goes out the window, because it doesn't matter. I'm going to hell anyway. So it doesn't really matter. And so I continued going to the bars. I would my motorcycle sometime to the bars. Well, I remember one night I went by a bar, and it was the Wooden Nickel, and it was where Allison and Lisa and I used to hang out with the ice cream people, and I decided to ride my motorcycle there. There was a guy in there, and he was kind of a biker, a good-looking guy, and all I remember was that he followed me home on his motorcycle. And he came to my apartment, and we were playing music and, kind of getting to know each other and blah, blah, blah. And as we were in my apartment, somebody started banging on the door. And the door just burst open. And it was this girl that we had called Wiki back on the ice cream truck. And I had gone to her and Candy's house in Mapleton, Georgia, where all the roaches came running. Well, she had been following me, which was really weird, and she was sort of stalking me over this time period. She came busting in, and she pulled the phone out of the wall. I went to go for the phone to call the police, and she pulled a knife and came after me. It was the strangest encounter, and she was screaming. It was like she was possessed. And I think because she was gay and that she saw me with this guy, she was very upset that I was not standing true to my gayness, I guess. I don't know. But we finally got rid of her, and the next morning she had let all the air out of this guy's motorcycle tires. And she let the air out of my car tires, and my motorcycle was still there. So I got him on the motorcycle. I had to go by my job to get some money. I just took it out of the cash register to take him to get his air and his tires and to have something to eat. And then I got rid of him, and then I went to work like nothing had happened. But these little escapades, as I call them, just continued to happen and go on and on. And then one night, I remember seeing Wiki in this bar, and I can remember speaking with her, and I don't remember much about it. The next morning, I woke up in my apartment, and on my dresser, I counted, there was some money, and it was $501. And I'm thinking, that's my rent money. And then I started backtracking through my mind, and I realized I'd been crying and whining to Wiki that I didn't have enough money for my rent. And then I started having flashes that she was going to buy my motorcycle. She said, I'll buy your motorcycle for $501. And all of a sudden I realized that I had sold her my motorcycle in a blackout. I had enough memory to know that that's what had happened. And so I started calling her frantically on the phone. And I finally got her later that day. And I said, I didn't mean to sell you my motorcycle. Did I sell you my motorcycle? She said, yeah. She said, I drove you back and you gave me the title. I said, I don't have the title. She said, well, you gave me a copy. You had a copy. And I did have a copy that I'd made, but the title was at the bank. And so I kept saying, well, you can't have it because it's not legally, I used my title for collateral. And she said, well, you sold it to me. And I just remember being so freaked out about this. And I drove down to where her apartment was later that night. And there was my motorcycle, and it was chained to this big oak tree. And it had this huge chain on it with a big lock. And I couldn't get it. And I didn't fight to get it. And I just walked away from it. And so these were the kind of things that were starting to happen. Things were starting to unravel. And I was losing more control. But I continued on the quest of drinking every night and decided that I would have a little Christmas get together, and I went and got a Christmas tree. And Michael, my little friend, he came over and he helped me decorate this tree. He stole a bunch of Christmas ornaments from his mother's collection. And they were the old-fashioned kind of nice glass ornaments. And so we decorated a tree. And I remember that night I only drank a couple of beers. And I remember Michael, we just, we would always laugh because he had a good sense of humor, and he was going through his own drama with his mother. And I remember him telling me, he said, yeah, something really bad happened the other night with her. And Patsy, his mother, was having her own alcoholic progression. He said, Jill, I was asleep in my bed, and all of a sudden I heard something. It sounded like water running. He goes, I sat up in the bed, and I could see from the streetlights that Mom was squatted down in the corner, and she was using the bathroom on my carpet in my floor. And Jill, she looked like this Neanderthal. Her hair was all in her face, and I just said, Mom, what are you doing? Get out of here, get up. And he goes, I jumped up and I grabbed her, and I got her out of my room, and it was so horrible. He said it was just so horrible. It was like a nightmare, but it was real. And I remember listening to him, and I remember thinking, oh my God, that's so horrible. That's so gross. Like, I couldn't imagine my mother doing something like that. I couldn't imagine doing something like that. How could she do that in front of her kid? He was only about 17 years old. It just broke my heart. My ability to feel was still there. But I could not understand that I was headed in the same direction. I could judge all day long, but I just couldn't get it that this was my journey too.
Hammered is recorded and produced in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Asheville, North Carolina. It's narrated by Jill Haynie, produced by Maggie Briggs and Jill Haynie, and with sound design, editing, and music by Alexander Rodriguez. Our beautiful artwork was created by Lauren Caddick, and we'd like to send a special thanks out there to Minnie and Robin. You can check out our website, podcasthammered.com, and follow us on social media for updates.